Hi everyone, I'm Matt and welcome back to another Toylytics video where we take a look at the analytical side of toy collecting. This is one that I've really been looking forward to making because this is the first Cosmic Legions video on the channel, and specifically we're going to look at the Hvalkatar Book 1 wave and how those figures sold on the secondary market in the second half of 2023. So let's take a look at which figures were up for sale and when they were put on sale. The pre-order period was September and October of 2021. Anyone that ordered directly from the Four Horsemen started to get their figures in late June 2023, and then anyone that ordered from the retailers was able to get them starting in late July. I believe the street date was around July 27th, but maybe a day or two either way, give or take. But regardless, there was a 1 month period of time from late June to late July, basically the whole month of July in the sales data, where there was really no other place to get these figures in hand if you hadn't already pre-ordered them other than getting them on the secondary market. So it's interesting to look at the prices during that July period versus August through the end of the year when the figures were available at retail. And we'll take a look at that as we go through the actual sales data. If you haven't been to the channel before, again, welcome. I have created other videos like this about various Mythic Legions waves, but as I said, this is my first Cosmic Legions wave. And I started collecting data for the entire channel right around the end of June 2023. I got the idea to start creating the channel then, coinciding with the release of the Cosmic Legions. I figured I could get in from the start. So basically everything that you see here is going to be all of the sales on eBay, not other forums, not the cabals on Facebook or Mercari or any other places like that. This is just eBay for the ease of data collection. But I basically have all of the sales from when these were released individually up until the end of 2023. And as we roll forward in time, I plan on updating these videos and updating the market picture every quarter. So the next set of videos or the next data that I'm going to be presenting on will be collected as of the end of March 2024. So looking at the figures themselves that were released in this wave, pretty big wave here. We have, I believe, 11 figures, and then we have a couple hands packs and the weapons pack that was released. So let's start taking a look at the actual data here. Okay, so looking at the sales themselves, you can see that most of the figures sold 40 copies or more up to about 50. The biggest one, I think, is the Tusk Sentry, not surprising based on the popularity of that figure for customizers and that sort of blank canvas that figure represents. But a lot of the other figures were sold pretty significantly as well. Notice there's a couple other figures here too that we didn't see elsewhere. These are the Relic of the Lost Cronin head and cosmic key in the gold version, and then the silver version as well. So these were, if you don't remember or aren't familiar, the gold version was a bonus that was thrown in from orders that were placed directly with the Four Horsemen, so that one's probably the rarer of the two. And then the Relic of the Lost Cronin silver version, that is available from retailers, and I believe a lot of retailers still have that available if you haven't purchased one already and you're interested in them. So looking overall, 558 sales over that 6-month period, a little bit less than 100 figures sold per month on average. And again, these are only individual figure sales, so no bundles or lots, and also complete figures, so no individual parts, no figures without the parts, figures without the heads. There's all kinds of listings like that on eBay, but there's too much variety in those sorts of listings, so these are all for complete figures. Now, it does include loose figures and repackaged figures and new figures. I did break those down, and you'll see those in the individual sales, but as far as any sort of parts or incomplete figures, doesn't include that at all. Okay. Looking at these by month, again, this probably isn't super interesting yet. It'll be more interesting, this type of graph, as we collect more data moving forward in time. But as you can see here, we have some figures, sold very few times per month. Other figures, though, in August, a lot of people wanted to get their hands on the Sentry. There were 18 of them sold. Tusk Science Officer 14 sold, Sphexian Prison Guard, right? A lot of people like those Sphexians. Xerian Spire and Tusk Engineer sold 11, right? So you can see that certain characters were being more popular. Not a surprise that some of the army building type characters were popular. But in general, it's kind of interesting to see the overall pattern here. So the line was pretty popular in July through September, but then in October kind of took a little bit of a dip. Maybe the shine was off. Everybody kind of had the figures that they wanted and were taking a break for a little while. But then as November, December picked up, sales also picked up as well. So, of course, we have the holiday season there in December. But in addition, if you're paying attention to the market overall, a lot of retailers were able to offer a 20% discount on the Hvalkatar Book 1 wave of figures that they still had in stock in December. So a lot of these were available at retail for 20% off the retail price. So that may be why a lot more figures were sold, because some of the retailers actually do sell on eBay. If you look at them, they are authorized retailers and they sell on eBay. So these are some retail sales, but of course not all of them, because not all the retailers sell on eBay. All right, let's take a look at the average price for each of the offerings in this wave. The highest price is High Warden Slog, not a surprise because he was the most expensive figure overall. Then we have Kragnar, the other big boy of the wave, and he's the next highest price, again, not surprising. Then we have the 3 deluxe figures, Oleg Thygar and the 2 Sphexians. Then we have the 3, sort of regular figures in this wave, the $50 retail figures. Then we have the 3 Tusk Army Builders. So basically everything here with this graph is entirely in line with the relative retail price that these figures are available for. And then we have all of the individual, the heads and the hands packs and the weapons packs there, sort of at the bottom as far as prices are concerned. One thing to note overall, though, is that all of these prices are very, very close to the retail price that is being offered. So I believe Slog is $120 retail. He's selling for an average of $117 on eBay. Kragnar selling for $80 retail. He's selling for $80.32. The 3 deluxe figures, Oleg Thygar and the Sphexians, their retail price is $60. They're selling right around $60. The individual regular type figures have a retail price of $50. Their prices are right around $50. And then we have the Army Builder figures, the Tusk figures their retail price is $45. Again, their prices here are right around $45. So basically the takeaway from this particular graph is that overall, over the 6-month period, on average, the figures are selling for right around their retail price. But let's take a look at these sales in a little bit more detail. So we'll first start by looking at Slog. Okay, so here's the Slog sales that we had. We can maybe ignore some of these real high values here that are sort of one-off sales, but in general, in July, he was selling for between $120, which was his retail price, and $150. And then after he became available at retail, again, that retail price of $120, after the beginning of August, he really never sold, other than this one up here, he never really sold for more than that retail price. And now, over the past month or so, not a lot have sold overall, but he's been selling right in that 100 to 110 range. Even before that, he was selling for around 100, or around 90, I should say, or 85, up to about 115, 120. Okay. One other thing to note here is that I also did filter out any test shots because test shots can skew the data. There were a significant number of test shots sold because those test shots were the first way that people had to get Cosmics in hand, was from buying test shots. So there were a kind of disproportionate number of test shots that were sold in the second half of 2023. So those are definitely filtered out. I'll hopefully make another video later on looking at test shots only in particular. Okay, so that's Slog. Let's take a look at the other big boy in the wave, Kragnar. And again, sort of a similar story. We're going to see this same sort of thing happen basically for all of the other figures. So, we had a very high price here. I'm not sure who's paying $160 in December for him when it was available for 20% off 80, right? So like $64, $65 from a lot of retailers. But anyway, the rest of the sales make a little bit more sense. So in July, he was selling for about 80, a little bit over 80, up to around 110, and then after that you can see his $80 retail price. He did sell a little bit more than 80 a few times, but in general he was selling somewhere between 60 and 80, and really like 65 to $80. Maybe if loose ones, if you wanted a loose one, you could get one for 60 or a little bit less. Okay, so that's Kragnar. Let's take a look at Hvalkatar grave ring. This is the basic or deluxe, or not deluxe, I should say, the standard figure version of Hvalkatar with the blue chest, okay, the bare blue chest. In July, before the retail orders were able to be shipped out, he was selling at a premium, right? His retail price was 50. He was selling at a premium from generally around 58 to 76. After that, though, again, not sold anywhere close to above retail price. He was sold for retail price or, around 40. You could see that 20% off. A lot of them were sold for $40 during the sale that was recently able to be offered, and then a few did sell even less than that, from 35 to 40 somewhere. All right. Here's the deluxe Hvalkatar, the Hvalkatar version. So his retail price is 60. You can kind of see that right here. Before August, he was selling for anywhere between about $68 to $92, and then after that, he did sell a little bit. There were some copies that sold for $65 to $70, but generally he was in the range from about 50 or about $50 to $60 overall. Okay, he wasn't on eBay at least 20% off would have been around $48 for him. So he wasn't really available for that on eBay. There were a few loose and repackaged figures, but in general, you weren't really able to get an Hvalkatar. If you were able to find one during those retail sales outside of eBay, that was definitely a good price, because other than that, you're looking at paying 50 or more. And by the way, if you haven't viewed my videos on the channel before, all my sales prices include shipping as well. All right, so wanted to make that clear so that people knew that we were comparing apples to apples when we're talking about comparing these prices. Okay, this is the gold Relic of the Lost Cronin head and skeleton key, or sorry, Relic of the Lost Cronin head and cosmic key. Forgot about that. Okay, so in general here, we had, this is the one that wasn't available from retailers, right? So you had to get this from the Four Horsemen directly through a pre-order. And when these were initially shipped, you could see a lot of sales here, a lot of sales in July and early August, anywhere from $25 up to $75, right? So a big variation in price here. But after September, not a lot of these sold overall, and the price came down significantly to be between $20 and $40. So, a lot of the hype might have gone away from this particular bonus at that point. Maybe just people forget about it, right? The next new thing out, other waves are coming out. Maybe new figure obscuras are coming out in October and December. People aren't as worried about it as they used to be. So, if you're looking for these sorts of releases on the secondary market because you couldn't get an all-in or weren't able to obtain it any other way, you might think about holding off when they initially drop. Let that hype die down a little bit, and there's probably going to be some available later on at a reasonably good price. Although there were some, at the beginning here that were a pretty good price as well. So I guess the moral of the story is if you see a good price, jump on it regardless of when it is. But in general, the price has come down pretty significantly. Now, looking at the retail version, not a lot of sales here on eBay. Makes a lot of sense that there wouldn't be, because these are available from other retailers still in stock. I believe Big Bad Toy Store has them in stock. I don't know why anybody would be paying $66 for these just a few weeks ago, but the rest of these you can see sold for about $13, $12, something like that, which makes a lot of sense compared to, I believe they're $9.99 on Big Bad Toy Store. Okay, let's look at the Sphexians. So shout out to Malcolm Kennedy if he's watching. I know he's a big Sphexian fan, maybe the biggest one out there. So Sphexians were sold for $60 retail, so in July, the price was between about $66 and $90, but then since then, very few, if any, of these Sphexian block commanders sold for above $60 at all. Someone got a really good price here of $19 at the beginning of November for a new one. That's a really good price that somebody was able to nab, I believe, in an auction. But regardless, otherwise, people were able to get the Sphexian block commander for somewhere between about 48, that 20% off, that $48 and $60. Take a look at the prison guard. I believe more of these are sold because I think a lot of people like this color scheme a little bit better. This is the blue one. And again, here's our $60 retail price. Again, in July, we're seeing prices between that 60 or 65 all the way up to $97. But after that, pretty much none. I don't think any of them sold for more than $60, right? The rest of them all sold somewhere between, for new figures, around 48 or so. Maybe a few sold for like 44, 45, and then some loose ones. Here's a new one for 34.40. That's a pretty good price if somebody was able to grab that one. But 41.85. $38, right? So people were able to get a pretty good discount on those if they wanted to get a Sphexian prison guard. Maybe I should have gotten another one. I really like that color scheme like a lot of other people do. All right, going into some of the Tusk figures here, these are the Army Builders. Now, they have a different retail price. You can kind of tell what it is by the cluster of points. These are $45 retail price, okay? So again, this is the Engineer, right, the black one. So before July, or before August, I should say, in July, it was selling for anywhere from $49 to $65. But after that, a few sold for more than that. But you were generally looking at getting him. Here's the 20% off value of $36, even a little bit less than that. People got them for about $35 or so. Here's a new one for $31. So anywhere from about $35 to $45 is what you could look at for a Tusk Engineer. Here's the Tusk Hands Pack. So this is a little more expensive than the Heroes Hand Pack, which we'll talk about in a second. $32 retail price on this one, and one sale at $35, but basically everything else has been below that. A few lower prices recently. Here's a $22 one. Here's a $26 one. Here's a $24 one early on. Somebody trying to dump it maybe from the all-in that didn't want it. But regardless, in general, you're looking at somewhere between that original retail price of $32 and $22, right? So $22 to $32 should be what you're looking for as far as a Tusk hand pack is concerned. Okay, I lost my test shot filter here. Hold on, let me add that. Okay. Science Officer. So the Science Officer is the white one. This is one I like the best, basically just based on the color scheme. So again, $45 retail price. In July, he was selling for somewhere around $50 to $70. After that, not a lot of them sold for more than that $45 value. And again, most of them are being sold somewhere between $35 and $45. So similar performance as we saw with the Engineer. Sentry, a few more sales here because the Sentry is a little more popular. You could tell that also in July. Sentry was selling for about $55 to $70, so a little bit higher than the other ones. And again, the $45 price at the retail level. Some people were paying up to $50 of them, even relatively recently, but in general, we're looking again somewhere between that $36 to $45 range. Okay, Heroes Hand Pack. This one has a retail price of $28, so a few people paid more than that, $29.55, $30, up to $35, but a lot of people were getting him on discount. Some recent hands packs discounted prices. This was a really good price, down to $15, but these sold for $22.39 and $23. So you're looking at somewhere between $22 and $28 for this hand pack in general. All right, Vorga, another favorite for a lot of people. This is a standard figure with a $50 retail price, so the prices here were around 52 up to 81. Then after that, a few people paid more than 50, but in general, people were paying somewhere between 40 and $50. A few loose ones, and this kind of odd new one going for 35. Not sure what's going on here with the 110. Maybe the same person that bought that Kragnar for 160 was buying the Vorga for 110, but you could get her pretty significantly cheaper almost anywhere else at that point. So, again, just like a lot of the other figures, going somewhere between that 20% off retail up to the retail price for the most part. Couple more. We got the weapons pack. I believe this had a $30 retail price. Some were sold for higher prices in that July period of time, but then after that, sales have kind of settled somewhere around $20 to $30, and typically I would say around $23 to $30 for the weapons pack. And then finally, one more figure, and that is Zirian Spire. Again, another figure that a lot of people seem to like. Regular standard figure price of $50. She was going for between $53 and $90 back in July, and then since then mostly has been going for retail and below. Again, here's that $40 price. A few even sold more recently for that $30 to $40 range, but most of the sales were between $40 and $50 for her. So same story with a lot of these figures. We saw a lot of high prices during that July period when you couldn't really get these figures anywhere else, and people, I think, just really wanted to get their hands on some Cosmic Legions to check them out. But after that, once they became available at retail level, the prices went down on the secondary market significantly, kind of matched that. I would imagine that in the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to see some of the retailers start to, especially with those sales we just saw, some of the retailers are going to start to dry up as far as their stock is concerned, and these figures are probably going to be a little bit harder to get at retail price, and then we'll see what happens. It's going to be dependent on the demand and obviously the supply as well. Not really an earth-shattering result there or insight, but it'll be interesting to see which ones sort of go up in price faster than others after that point, once they start selling out at the retail level. But again, here, not surprising that we're seeing a lot of the same sort of retail prices when they are still available at that retail price from retail shops. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this first look at the Cosmic Legions line as far as the secondary market is concerned. Cosmic Legions Hvalkatar Book 1. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you have any other ideas about kinds of analysis that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. You can also email me anytime at toylytics@gmail.com. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.